Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening and joining us for the Fort Worth ISD Council of PTAs Candidate Forum for District 5. Running for this seat are Carin C.J. Evans, Kevin Lynch, and Josh Yoder. All candidates were invited to participate in this forum. Our moderator for the evening is star student from O.D. Wyatt High School, where we are live from tonight, junior Javia Lane. Something that she shared with me earlier about what she loves about public school are all the offerings, that it's not just coming to learn, but there's a well-rounded opportunity for her to participate in sports and electives. And so we're so glad that she has given her time these last week and this week to help us out and flex her advocacy muscles. She did recently travel with PTA to Austin for Rally Day and got super excited about advocacy, which always makes our hearts happy. My name is Tiffany Rogers, and I serve as the Vice President of the Fort Worth ISD Council of PTAs. And the mission of PTA is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. Part of how we make every child's potential a reality is empowering families to be informed voters. This forum will be recorded and available for viewing between now and voting day on our website, which is www.fwisdpta.org, and it will be in English and Spanish. We are also streaming on Facebook Live. I'd like to give special thanks to Marisol Herrera for the translation help with these videos, and she'll give us a message here in just a bit to welcome our Spanish-speaking viewers. We are also incredibly thankful to you guys as candidates for joining us this evening to help us get to know you. PTA is nonpartisan. Supporting or opposing issues is what we do, not candidates. So in that spirit, let me go over a few guidelines for this evening. Candidates, please focus your answers on your plans, helping our viewers get to know you, and refraining from referencing the past or your opponent. You may interact with our moderator, but may not interact directly with each other. You will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to introduce yourself, 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond to each question, and 1 minute and 30 seconds for closing remarks. I will serve as the timekeeper. When you hear the sound of a bell, you will have 15 seconds left. So the bell doesn't mean you have to stop. You still just know that you have 15 seconds after that. As the 1 minute and 30 second time expires, our moderator will interrupt with a thank you, and then you'll be muted after that. Opening statements will be in alphabetical order by last name, and closing statements will be in the opposite order. Questions will be similar. They will be answered starting with question 1 in alphabetical order by last name and then alternating. Marisol, I'll let you give our welcome in Spanish.
Thank you, Tiffany. Bienvenidos y gracias por acompañarnos. Para todos nuestros televidentes de habla hispana, este foro estará disponible con subtítulos y audio en español próximamente en nuestro sitio web www.fwisdpta.org.
Thank you so much, Marisol. I'm going to turn it over to Javia. We will start with Ms. Evans for the opening statement, and if you'll give me just 1 second for the timer and get that set up. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I'll begin with question 1, and I'll begin with Ms. Evans. How do you see Fort Worth ISD responding to the competition of charter schools and private schools?
All right, well, can you hear me okay? Is my volume okay? All right. Javia, thank you for the question. First, I just want to briefly introduce myself out there to everyone. Primero, gracias a los padres y abuelos que están escuchando esta noche en español. Soy C.J. Evans y yo he tenido el privilegio de servir en la Junta Escolar estos últimos 4 años. So I've been serving as the board trustee for the last 4 years, and it's just been my privilege. And so thank you all for organizing this tonight. And so your question regarding the competition of charter schools, is the way we combat that is by having A+ rated campuses in our neighborhood schools and being an A+ district. So I'm going to just keep focusing on what I've been focusing on, and that is academic achievement. It's something I ran on 4 years ago and something I've been doing for the last 4 years. With the continued increase or influx of charters, as well as just some changing, potential changing in the landscape at the legislative level, Fort Worth ISD is duty bound to provide an A+ education at every campus, and I'm committed to that.
Thank you. Following Ms. Evans, we can start with Mr. Lynch's introductory, and then we'll proceed to the same question.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. My name is Kevin Lynch, dad of 5 kids in Fort Worth ISD schools. Decided to run because I've been involved in a lot of different things within the district, PTA at multiple campuses, a part of the Fort Worth ISD Council of PTAs. I'm on the Citizen Oversight Committee for the 2021 bond. Started a youth football program here at Pasco High School with almost 600 kids, and mentor at Alice Contreras Elementary, as well as Westbrook through Academy 4. And through the involvement, a lot of good things going on, but a lot of things we need to do a whole lot better. With declining enrollment, scores declining, and budgets going up, I felt like I needed to throw my hat in the ring and make a positive impact. As it relates to charter schools, private schools, and the competition out there, I think the biggest thing is education. We got to focus on taking care of the kids in this district and all kids, and making sure that we're getting them where they need to be. And then the other thing, from a public school standpoint, we need to take a look and figure out what we're best at and what we can be better at than everyone else. And with a big district, I think we have the potential to offer everything from athletics, extracurricular activities, and a lot of different programs. And I think we need to find a way to make sure that those are put in front of all the kids and create a sense of FOMO that people want to be part of this district.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Mr. Lynch. We'll proceed with question 2. How will you approach the great disparity of academic achievement and opportunity between students of different races in Fort Worth ISD?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. Yeah, I think this is a question that's pretty easy to answer in Fort Worth ISD. You look at the demographics of the district, minority district, as you look at things. And so I think the biggest focus is on all kids. I think every kid is unique, brings a unique sense of background and where they come from and who they are and what they're about. And we need to figure out a way to take care of all these kids at all campuses. To do that, we got to have great leaders, principals at all campuses, and find a way to recruit the best teachers and meet these kids where they need to be met. Make sure they're successful.
Thank you. Same questions for Ms. Evans. How will you approach the great disparity of academic achievement and opportunity between students of different races in Fort Worth ISD?
Well, to make sure that any disparity is addressed and that all students achieve at the highest level possible, we need to look at what gives us an academic return on our investment. And so the board actually started that work a while back. And where we've seen 2 big impact areas that we're seeing an academic return on investment is parental involvement, and the second one being early childhood. So we are applying and allocating resources accordingly. That's how we address any disparities. And a disparity that was actually highlighted during COVID was our elementary reading levels. And so to kind of make up for lost learning during that time, we're doing Saturday school for students to have continued quality instruction in smaller environments so the academics can keep rising. And so that's an allocation of resources that's important. We're not seeing the need for Saturday school in our A+ campuses or our A campuses, but where we do need it, we're going to address that and give that opportunity to this student to remedy that. Another thing that we're doing as a board is offering robust summer offerings, bilingual arts. Some are just focused on reading and math, but they're really about fun stuff. And that's going to continue to help raise the waters all around academically.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Same question for Mr. Lynch. How will you approach the great disparity of academic achievement and opportunity between students of different races in Fort Worth ISD?
I think we already answered those questions. I think we're on to the next one.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll proceed to question 3. As a school board member, how would you respond to the efforts of special interest groups who advocate the censorship of existing curriculum while working with your fellow board members to create a cohesive vision for the district?
Is that question to me first?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I really like the last part of the question that talks about working with fellow board members to create a cohesive vision for the district, because my fellow board members and I have done that. And that our cohesive vision is that all our kids read on grade level and do math on grade level. Our vision includes excellence everywhere. And so that is one thing that the board is and will continue to cohesively focus on. And we're so focused on that, that it's not the board's job to get into the weeds of some of this. The first part of the question talks about censorship of an existing curriculum. I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and use the SHAC and sex ed curriculum as an example. We are a board that relies on committees. So we have appointed a committee to examine this and make a recommendation of the curriculum. And so the process that's in place, it's important for a board as part of good governance to let the process work. So that's kind of a two-part answer to the question, but the first response is we do have that cohesive vision of all kids reading on grade level. And then the process that we have in place, I think are important to follow for good governance.
Thank you. Same question for Mr. Lynch. As a school board member, how would you respond to the efforts of special interest groups who advocate the censorship of existing curriculum while working with your fellow board members to create a cohesive vision for the district?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. And I think it's something that certainly is all over the news these days. And I think one of the biggest things as a district that we have to find a way to do is create a sense of transparency and trust. Ultimately, parents need to know, what their kids are learning and create a sense of transparency. So that's out there. I think there's some policies in place that allow things, but some things that we've gone through, I've seen it firsthand that it's hard to see things if you're curious about what your kids learn in certain instances. And so I think that's something that we have to find a way to bring families together and allow them to see what there is that they want to see, so they know what their kids are learning. I've got 5 kids in the district, and I can tell you that, I don't want them learning something at school that I wouldn't want them learning at home. And so we need to create a process that allows for transparency and trust. And I think doing that, we'll see enrollment continue to climb in the right direction.
Thank you. Next question. The STAR test is a state requirement that tends to drive instruction and results in other problematic impacts on teachers and students. How should the district allocate resources to manage these impacts while ensuring student success? Ms. Evans, that's for you.
Well, coming back to allocating resources, when we know something works, we need to allocate and apply accordingly. So top tier quality instruction is very important. Sometimes it's important that be in a smaller group setting. Well, that costs more, but those are things we consider during the budget cycle. And if one school does need more resources because they need smaller classes or they need, this or that, that is I am committed to that. Something else that my opponent actually mentioned is strong principles. We are committed to having a strong principal pipeline. Our A-rated campuses have principals that teachers want to work for and teach for. So it's important. You know, Fort Worth ISD is the third largest employer in the county. It's important that we be good employers and we train up and fortify those that are there, particularly strong principals. That's another piece. Parental engagement, you already heard me talk about that. So that's Fort Worth ISD. Some campuses have done parental engagement really great. Other campuses have not. And we need to learn how that looks organically at each campus. And so, but as a district and as a board, parental engagement is important because we've seen the academic return on investment for that. And there's so many other factors that factor into student success, but as a board member, it's our job to hold the superintendent accountable to bring those things to pass, and that's done through goals or constraints.
Thank you. Same question for Mr. Lynch. The STAR test is a state requirement that tends to drive instruction and results and other problematic impacts on teachers and students. How should the district allocate resources to manage these impacts while ensuring student success?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. STAR test, something coming down from the state, something that, you know, as of today is a part of things that we have to do. I think there's certain aspects of it, learning certain topics, curriculum that certainly can be built into, you know, what needs to happen on a yearly basis. And then I think there's a very small portion that you can apply to test taking skills. I know that they can be a stressful time. It's a good week. My kids are taking those tests this week. I think, you know, we have to teach kids to do hard things, and that's a part of it. It's not something that we can change at the board level with the STAR test currently, but we need to make sure that we're, you know, providing the right resources and focusing on academic excellence, but taking care of the things that we have to take care of.
Thank you. Next question for Mr. Lynch. What is your position regarding self-esteem, self-worth, and social emotional health educational programs?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I think the biggest thing that we have to focus on as a district is, you know, if we try to be a jack of all trades or a master of none. I think that the biggest thing from a confidence standpoint, if we can get kids reading on grade level, math on grade level at all grades, I think that has a lot to do with self-confidence and takes care of those things. And ultimately, we're hiring the right people, teachers and principals. And I think those are things they're going to learn along the way if we get the right people in place. And that's my answer.
Thank you. Same question for Ms. Evans. What is your position regarding self-esteem, self-worth, and social emotional health educational programs?
I would echo much of my opponent's response in that the primary focus is and should be academics. However, as a parent, I will say, I think what Fort Worth ISD is doing in this regard is on point. At the elementary level, most of them do a quick, you know, check-in with the kid. It's a non-intrusive thing. And then occasionally throughout the year, the counselor will work something about self-esteem, you know, in to the counselor's curriculum, but it's nothing that's the focus of anything. It's just complementary to the academic work that's being done at the campus. So I'm just going to speak to that as a parent. I think to the extent that Fort Worth ISD is doing that now as in a complementary way to academics, I'm fine with that. The primary focus, as I said, is and should be academic achievement.
Thank you. Now, question 6. We'll begin with Ms. Evans. How would you help schools to enhance parent engagement and create a supportive and collaborative school environment that would benefit the academic achievement and well-being of students?
Well, the creation of our parental engagement department is one of the things that I am so proud of. We started the parental engagement department just right before COVID. I believe it was February 2020. And that department has done a lot of things in just a few years. But really what parental engagement starts with is a welcoming principal and welcoming teachers. And when parents and grandparents feel welcome on campus and welcome as a part of their child's educational journey, then those teachers and principals and campus leaders can rely on those parents to help guide the students. So I think, again, back to so many of our A campuses, they have strong parent groups. And I think it's so key to engage those parents. And like I said earlier, it can look differently on different campuses. But that truly does start at the principal level. And I just applaud so many of our principals who work so hard to reach out to families. Again, how does a board member contribute to that? That would maybe be through a constraint of some sort, which, our goal for the superintendent is, reading and math at certain levels, on grade level. But then how do they do that? And is that right? We really want you to engage parents. We really want you to this and that. So that's something I'm always working hard on to see how, as a board member, can I affect positive change in this very important area.
Thank you. Same question for Mr. Lynch. How would you help schools to enhance parent engagement and create a supportive and collaborative school environment that would benefit the academic achievement and well-being of students?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways that this can be done. I can speak from a parent standpoint. I always appreciate kind of that first parent-teacher conference after the first 6 weeks of the school year. Let the kids get in there, let everything get settled, routines, figure out where kids are. And I think it's a great way for parents to connect with their teachers of their kids to learn, where they are, what they're learning, what they're not, maybe where their struggles are, talk about behavior things. I've got 5 kids. Some of my kids will tell me everything that happens at school, and other kids will not tell me a peep. And so I think it's a great opportunity to engage parents with the teachers. The other thing that I think that would be helpful is, we talk about parent engagement, and I think there's certain pockets of this district that have a ton of parent engagement, but how do we continue to make it better for other places? And I think we have to engage them in the way that they need to be engaged. That looks different places. And I think the other thing is just providing them information about letting them know if their kid is reading and doing math on grade level. I can tell you that most parents, when they come home with report cards with A's and B's, assume that their kids are doing extremely well. But if we put it and broke it down that way, I think there's some parents that would pay a lot more of attention and get involved if they knew that their kid was behind.
Thank you. Next question, we'll begin with Mr. Lynch this time. Do you believe the city of Fort Worth has an influence in improving the quality of education of our students? And how would you engage the city of Fort Worth to invest in our schools?
I think absolutely, a city has a big part of education. I think one of the biggest struggles our city has from an economic standpoint is recruiting companies to Fort Worth based on the public education system. And so there's absolutely a vested interest, and I think there's a partnership that can be played from the city, but also a lot of the local businesses, and getting those businesses within these schools so kids can learn and find out what opportunities are out there for them. I think if I look back, I knew what my dad did growing up and maybe my best friend's dad, but a very small scope. And I think when we can open kids' eyes to what's out there and the opportunities and get them excited and finding purpose with some of the great businesses that are here, that goes a long way.
Thank you. Same question for Ms. Evans. Do you believe the city of Fort Worth has an influence in improving the quality of education of our students? And how would you engage the city of Fort Worth to invest in our schools?
Well, to Mr. Lynch's point there about the city getting involved, with our young kids and seeing what's out there, our CTE department is already doing that and engaging with community partners and businesses across the city for internships, for secondary track stuff. It is really a neat thing to have seen come together in the last 4 to 6 years. In fact, I had the privilege of attending an open house sort of community event with businesses who are coming to see our students work. And so it was really neat to see the good work that's already going on through our CTE department, and that with that continued focus. So I do have to brag, speaking of CTE, Arlington Heights High School licensed over 70 welders this year. Speaking of CTE and kids heading off into employable tracks. Anyway, back to the question about how would I engage the city of Fort Worth to invest in our schools? One of the most important things that the city of Fort Worth can do right now to help education is provide affordable housing. And I know that that is something that they're working on, but one of the things that deters student success is mobility. And that is when a student will move from campus to campus, sometimes several times in one single school year. And that is often done because the parents are moving apartments. Well, this apartment over on this side has a special, this apartment has this, and so then they end up moving campuses. So if affordable housing, if there's more affordable housing, mobility decreases and student scores go up. And I know it's something the city of Fort Worth's working on. And every time I get a chance to visit with a council member, I talk about affordable housing and the efforts in that area.
Thank you. And our final question, beginning with Ms. Evans, is what is the biggest challenge facing Fort Worth ISD? How would you solve this challenge? And how would you engage and get buy-in from the Fort Worth ISD stakeholders?
By far, the biggest challenge is our third graders reading on grade level. And I focus on that number because that academic marker is so indicative of so many other measures of success down the road. So if we really hone in on that third grade reading level, that is our biggest challenge. And, we've already gotten buy-in from the stakeholders. One of the duties of a trustee is to represent the vision and values of the community. I did this 4 years ago, and I've been doing it the last 4 years. And I always ask community members, what do they want? What do they want to see from ISD? And overwhelmingly, the vision of Fort Worth that I speak to is get all our kids on reading on grade level. And so we've got that buy-in. We've identified the problem. We've got the buy-in from the community and the stakeholders. And how do we solve that? It's all hands on deck. Like our educational experts in Fort Worth ISD are doing with quality tier 1 instruction, strong leaders, being a strong employer, being that strong partner with the parents, things that we have set into motion and we're only now just starting to see the benefits of. But going back to the all hands on deck piece, and the community members know how important it is. We have some key community partners in groups or incentives like Readers Become Leaders. We read as a district more minutes than any other surrounding urban district. And it's because of this really cool program brought to us by the community. Academy 4, they're another community partner that really brings a lot to the campus in a volunteer capacity. And where they are, the water level rises. And so, and those are just 2 out of so many key partners, but it's all hands on deck, focusing on our third grade reading level and having key community partners to help us do that.
Thank you. Same question for Mr. Lynch. What is the biggest challenge facing Fort Worth ISD? How would you solve this challenge? And how would you engage and get buy-in from Fort Worth ISD stakeholders?
Yeah, it's not, I think the biggest challenge that we're faced and have kind of seen it, over the last, 4 years and even before that, test scores declining, kids aren't able to read. And as CJ pointed out, at third grade, if they're not able to read on grade level, their success rate is about 5%. And so I think the biggest thing that we have to focus on is prior to third grade. There are kids that show up in public education, come in all different shapes, sizes, abilities, and backgrounds. And I think sometimes you have a kid that's, fully equipped at pre-K. Other times you have a kid that maybe never seen a book and shows up in your classroom in kindergarten. And so I think the investment in education at the kindergarten level, first grade level, second grade level is paramount, and even before that, pre-K and even before pre-K. And so I think there's a need to partner with the city and organizations to figure out a way that we make sure that these kids come and get everything that they need so that they can go on to fourth grade where they need to read to learn and not learn to read. And that's the biggest challenge facing us. I've mentor right now, and candidly, I have a fifth grader I've mentored, and I have a second grade son that can read better than that fifth grader, and it breaks your heart. And great kids, great families, but we have a responsibility to make sure that we take care of all these kids and get them where they need to be.
Thank you. And we'll begin with our closing statements, starting with Ms. Evans.
Thank you all again for organizing this tonight. I've got 4 kids in the district. I've only been serving as a trustee for 4 years, but prior to that, I just began serving as a PTA mom when my daughter was in kindergarten. So I've been serving Fort Worth ISD for 11 years. And truly, it is an act of service because I sit here as a mom full of hope for my kids and full of hope for Fort Worth ISD and the city of Fort Worth. I have been focusing on 3 areas these past 4 years, and that is academic excellence. You've heard me talk about it tonight. Fiscal transparency. We didn't really dive into that, but it is something that's really important to me. And transparency in all our processes, whether it be the budgeting or procurement or curriculum, is key. And so fiscal transparency and transparency. And then the third one, and you've heard me mention this one a lot, is that parental engagement piece. Parental engagement strengthens a school community, and it strengthens every student's ability to succeed. And so I'm going to I commit to you to remain focused on these things. I've pulled my literature from 4 years ago. 2 of the 3 things were the same thing. So I am boring and plain in these tumultuous times, but I have been nothing but steadfast and focused and open-handed as I approach these complex issues that trustees face. Thank you all for listening. And if you have any other questions, you can reach out on the chat, or I'm really responsive on the website, CJEvans for FWISD.com. Thank you.
Thank you. And now for Mr. Lynch's closing statement.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate y'all creating this forum for us to be here. Great to kind of share a lot of what's going on, some of the goals I have. As I mentioned before, I have 5 kids within the district, been involved in a lot of different ways. And I think we're at a very key inflection point within public education, but specifically Fort Worth ISD. Fort Worth ISD is the lowest performing urban district in the state of Texas. And, we need to find a way to create some impactful change and positive change for all kids. There's a lot of great things going on in the district, but we have a long way to go. My nature is a maximizer to make things better. And, I've chosen to jump in and put my name in the hat to be a quiet leader that can bring people together and make change for everyone. The 3 things I'm focused on are academic excellence, fiscal responsibility, and building stronger communities throughout the city of Fort Worth. Thank you.
Thank you both for being here and for letting our communities get to understand. As a reminder, this forum is being recorded and available for viewing on our website, www.fwisdpta.org, between now and voting day in English and Spanish. And please feel free to share so that others in the community can hear these thoughts that our candidates have given tonight and get to know them as well. Unfortunately, I do have a sad announcement. Our in-person candidate reception has been canceled, and we do apologize for that. I want to say a special thank you again to Javia for monitoring. She did an excellent job and we're so proud of her and happy to have her engaging with us at the PTA at this point in her life. Thank you again to Marisol for our translation help and again to candidates. Early voting is April 24th through May 2nd and voting day is May 6th. And we hope you will all get out there and exercise your right to vote. And again, a last thank you to our candidates, our moderator, and to you, our viewers. Enjoy your evening.